Am I the antagonist for scolding my daughter and son-in-law? I am a 60-year-old woman, and I have 3 grandsons from my daughter Kim, 37 years old, and her husband Gary, 37 years old. Their sons are Rockwell, 13 years old, Kylo, 10 years old, and Hunter, 3 years old. My husband, who is 62 years old, and I sometimes pick up Hunter from his preschool. We are on the list of approved pickups, and we usually do this once a week on average. On Monday, we needed to pick up Hunter again. I went along as my husband was out getting McDonald's when we brought Hunter back to our place. When I arrived to pick him up, I was told I needed to sign an incident report form. I understand that these things happen, so before I signed, I asked what had happened. The woman doing pickup informed me that Hunter had used a derogatory term against another student. I was shocked and asked if she knew if any of the other kids had used that word, since I had no idea where Hunter could have learned such language at the age of 3. However, she said that this was the first time she had heard of it happening. Once in the car, I talked to Hunter about his day and then asked about the incident. I explained to him that using that word hurts people's feelings and he should never say it again. He then told me that Kylo uses that word against Rockwell's friend. Rockwell plays baseball and has friends who are athletes, including a boy who does cheerleading and gymnastics. Rockwell's friend is gay. Hunter mentioned that Rockwell got angry when Kylo used that word, but he didn't know why. When I asked Hunter why he said it, he said he didn't know, and I didn't press him further because he's only 3. I simply reiterated that he should never ever say that word again. When Kim and Gary came to pick up Hunter, I told them what had happened. They immediately became defensive. Kim said to me, "You don't know what it's like to raise a gifted kid. Kylo is in a gifted and talented program at his school, focusing on STEM subjects, which he loves." Kim and Gary mentioned that sometimes gifted kids will act up. When I asked how they planned to address this situation, they replied that it was none of my business and accused me of being a helicopter grandma. I was upset and started to scream at them, expressing that if they are going to be upset about how I act as a grandparent, then my husband and I don't need to be around Hunter. Later that night, my other daughter Beth, 34 years old, called me. She wanted to help resolve the conflict between me and Kim and suggested that I apologize. However, I told her that I didn't think I did anything wrong, so I refused to apologize. My husband also supports me in this. Since Monday, we haven't spoken to either of our daughters. Am I the asshole in this situation? You were responsible for picking up your 3-year-old grandson from preschool when you were informed that he had used a derogatory slur against another student. You handled the situation appropriately by signing the incident report and discussing the issue with your grandson, emphasizing the importance of not using hurtful language. When your daughter and son-in-law came to pick up their son, you informed them about the incident. Instead of addressing the issue constructively, they became defensive and dismissive, claiming that gifted children sometimes act up and that it was none of your business. They also accused you of being a helicopter grandma. Considering your reaction and frustration with their response, it is understandable that you raised your voice and expressed your concern about being around Hunter if they are going to be upset about your involvement. This does not make you the a-hole. However, it may be worth considering whether yelling was the most effective way to communicate your feelings. In order to resolve the conflict, it could be helpful to have a calm and open conversation with your daughter and son-in-law to address your concerns and feelings. Your other daughter's suggestion of bringing peace between you and Kim could be worth exploring, as long as it does not involve dismissing or downplaying the importance of discussing and resolving the incident involving your grandson's language. Am I the antagonist for taking my mom's jewelry from my dad's house and hiding it from him? My mom died when I was 6. I remember her, but I don't really remember her as the mom who did things with me. She got sick when I was 4, so I remember her being sick. I used to sit with her in bed and she would read to me, sing, brush my hair. I have always had long hair for a guy, and she would listen to me talk. Sometimes she would tell me things she wanted for me. My mom had a lot of jewelry, including her engagement and wedding rings, a charm bracelet she had since she was a kid, a locket, a heart necklace, a birthstone necklace, and some other items. In her will, my mom specified that I was to have them all. I used to wear one of her necklaces and would hide it with my clothes. But then my dad remarried and things got really awful. The jewelry was originally in my room, but suddenly it was moved to the attic. Then my dad had a daughter with his wife, and all of a sudden, there were whispers about the jewelry. She's 7 now, and there has been more talk lately about her getting some of mom's jewelry. My dad has said he would like her to have a piece or two, as he wants to include her in his old life and show that he loves her just as much as he loves me. He often tells his daughter that my mom is sort of like her aunt, and that she would have loved her. He says that my mom would be glad his little girl could wear her jewelry. I told my dad that it would not happen because mom's will stated that everything was mine. My dad always says it doesn't have to be a fight. We can discuss it more over time, and maybe even let his daughter see the jewelry, so she can decide if she likes any particular piece. My dad's wife told me it would be a beautiful symbol of our family being truly united. She spun this idea that I wanted my baby sister to have a piece of mom, to share my mom with her, and prove that I love her as a sister, and not just a half-sister or my dad's daughter. She said it would make her daughter feel special. I freaked out at the thought of them giving her something against my wishes, so I spoke to someone I trust and got the jewelry out of the house and to that person. A person I trust. I won't say where, just in case my dad or his wife reads this. But it is safe and that person will keep it safe for me. I trust them completely. My dad didn't notice for a while, but then when he was getting the Halloween decorations down, he noticed they were gone. He asked me where I put them, and I told him he would never know. His wife was angry and said I destroyed what could have been a beautiful gesture and story. My dad called me a selfish little brat and expressed his disappointment in me. He said he wanted to share a piece of mom with his daughter and couldn't understand why I wouldn't let him have just one piece. I told him it was because the jewelry was mine, as mom wanted. He told me that taking it out of the house behind his back was still wrong. He grounded me for a couple of weeks because of it. He's still upset with me. Am I the asshole? It's understandable that you value the jewelry as a way of remembering your mom and honoring her wishes. It's important for your dad to respect those wishes and understand that they hold sentimental value for you. It's not fair for him to expect you to give up something so meaningful to you, especially without your consent. Taking the jewelry to keep it safe was a reasonable decision given the circumstances. Your dad should have a conversation with you about this situation and try to come to a compromise that respects everyone's feelings and memories. Am I the antagonist for taking my son's phone away and going through it? My wife and I have 3 sons, Keon, Ford, and Orson. Earlier today, I took the boys for their annual physicals while my wife was at work. The boys had the day off from school, so after the doctor's appointment, we had some free time. We went shopping for Christmas decorations since Halloween is over. Ford, who loves Christmas and always decorates his room, suggested going shopping for Christmas decor. I agreed and took them to some stores. Ford bought a lot of stuff, and Keon and Orson also found some items they liked. I told the boys I would buy them whatever they wanted. Ford was particularly excited about some baseball-related Christmas decor he found, and Keon got some decorative pillows for his room. The issue arose with Orson. Orson is not interested in decorating and has more niche interests like anime and science. Usually we go to antique thrift stores for him. However, he didn't want to go this time. When we got in the car after shopping, Orson began making inappropriate comments. He used a derogatory slur and complained about Ford's love for decorating, saying it made him look gay. He also insulted Ford's other interests. I told Orson to stop, but he continued his rant. I decided to go home instead of going out for lunch. We just arrived home and I tried talking to Orson about his behavior. However, he refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing and refused to tell me where he learned that language. I asked for his phone, and after some negotiation, he gave it to me. When I looked through his phone, I found offensive texts in a group chat with some of his friends. This included racist memes, mockery of autism and ADHD, and anti-LGBT content. I called my wife to discuss the situation, but she became upset with me for taking Orson's phone without her permission. She argued that it was invasive and that it wasn't our place to judge what he says privately. This reaction from my wife is unusual, as she rarely gets angry or raises her voice. Now I'm questioning if I am the one at fault here. It is your responsibility as a parent to address inappropriate behavior and language, especially when it promotes hate, discrimination, and bullying. Orson's actions were disrespectful and hurtful towards his brother and others. Taking away his phone to investigate the issue was a reasonable response given the situation. Your wife's reaction seems to disregard the severity of the situation and the impact it has on others. It is important for both parents to be on the same page when addressing such behavior and to teach their child the importance of respect and acceptance. Am I the antagonist for telling my infertile in-laws that their dog is not equal to a child? 2 years ago, my husband, 34 years old, and I, 33 years old, became pregnant. This was a significant milestone for us, as we have always been eager to become parents. Before we could share the news with anyone, my husband's brother, 35 years old, and his wife, 38 years old, informed the family that they had been trying to conceive, but were unsuccessful. It was confirmed by doctors, which devastated them, and we felt heartbroken for them. To be considerate, my husband and I chose to delay our announcement. We waited for 3 months, but then my pregnancy was becoming noticeable, and we had no other choice. A week after we made our announcement, my brother-in-law, and sister-in-law, adopted a dog named Bella. From that moment, Bella became their primary topic of conversation, and they refused to go anywhere without her. Our relationship with them has suffered as a result. My husband and his brother no longer spend time together because my brother-in-law is so consumed by Bella that it's difficult to have a meaningful conversation with him. My brother-in-law has even lost friends due to this obsession, and my sister-in-law has quit her job to always be with the dog. We even stopped our weekly family dinners because Bella constantly barks, steals food, and bites. She has become a nightmare to be around. Additionally, my husband is allergic and can only tolerate being near her for a short period. They referred to Bella as the first grandchild or the first last name girl, considering there hasn't been a female born in the family for 5 generations, which bothers me because my daughter is the one who holds those titles, not the dog. They believe that my daughter and their dog should be treated equally, and they get upset when they are not. When I gave birth, they sulked and made a lengthy post on Facebook expressing their hurt, that no one had reached out to them when they adopted Bella, despite people checking on me and my daughter. For over a year, I have been holding my tongue because I understand they are dealing with a painful situation. However, this week I reached my breaking point. Recently, a relative invited my husband, our baby, and me to their wedding, but specifically asked my in-laws not to bring Bella. On Sunday, just as my husband and I were about to leave my in-laws' house, I overheard my brother-in-law saying that if his dog couldn't attend the wedding, then my daughter shouldn't be allowed either. He questioned, why should they bring her if we can't bring Bella? Although they frequently make such comments, I finally couldn't hold back and replied, because Bella is a dog and my daughter is a human baby. They are not the same. We left shortly after, but later on, my brother-in-law called my husband to express how hurt they were and that I made my sister-in-law cry. My husband believes I should not have said anything and wants me to take it back. I acknowledge that their dog is like a child to them, and it is not my intention to be cruel or insensitive. However, I am exhausted from hearing them compare my daughter to a dog, and I do not want her to grow up around people who perceive her as equal to an unruly animal. Am I the asshole? While it's understandable that your in-laws may have formed a strong bond with their dog after being unable to have children, their comparisons between your daughter and their pet are disrespectful and hurtful. Your response was justified as you finally reached your breaking point. It's important to set boundaries and prioritize the well-being of your daughter, making it clear that she should not be equated to an animal. Am I the antagonist for telling my sister me working for her or us working together could never work? My younger sister, 27 years old, and I, 30 years old, are both hairstylists. She was inspired by my interest in the field and has been very successful. A few years ago, our parents provided her with the funds to start her own hair salon, but it got delayed due to the pandemic. My sister is incredibly popular and earns a good income, but her business has grown to the point where she needs more employees. She came to me with the idea of running the business together. I expressed that it wouldn't work for me, but I appreciated the opportunity. She then asked if I would work for her, and my answer remained the same. Growing up, my sister was the favored child. Our parents always made sure to remind me of that fact, often in cruel ways. She excelled in school and was involved in extracurricular activities, even the ones I participated in. Though I did well, it was always clear that she was better. When I was 16, my grandparents gave me a hairstyling head for Christmas. However, several months later, my parents claimed it as my sister's birthday gift, even though I was still using it. They then proceeded to showcase her work and compare it to mine, emphasizing her talent at the age of 13 compared to mine at 16. This was incredibly difficult for me, as I was passionate about hairstyling and wanted to pursue it as a career. It was a painful experience, and it led me to seek therapy. I later cut off contact with my parents. I did have a heart-to-heart conversation with my sister about the situation, and she expressed remorse for our parents' actions and my resulting pain. I even shared with her that I was in therapy. Returning to the current issue, my past experiences in therapy have prevented me from considering working with my sister. While I have my own loyal clients and am doing decently well, I don't receive the same recognition she does. However, I do have stronger relationships with other stylists. She faces challenges in attracting stylists to her salon, as many feel intimidated by her skill, even with training. My sister explained that she needs more stylists to keep her business running smoothly, as the current number of clients is not enough to sustain such a large establishment. I made it clear that working together wouldn't be feasible, as the jealousy and hurt I feel would create a toxic environment. In response, my sister became upset and insisted that it wasn't her fault. She believed that if we worked together, we could both feel better. However, I still hold resentment towards her for what our parents put me through, and I believe she will experience failure for the first time in her life. Following our argument, she sent me a text expressing her disappointment in me. Am I the asshole? Based on the information provided, I would say that you are not the asshole in this situation. It is understandable that you have deep emotional wounds related to the favoritism displayed by your parents and the comparison between you and your sister. It takes a lot of courage and strength to open up about your feelings and seek therapy. Your sister, although well-intentioned, may not fully grasp the extent of the hurt you have experienced. While it is unfortunate that she is struggling to find stylists for her business, it is not fair to place the blame on you or expect you to sacrifice your own mental well-being for her success. It is crucial to prioritize your own emotional healing and protect yourself from any toxic dynamic that may arise if you were to work with your sister. It is okay to set boundaries and prioritize your mental health. However, it might be worth having a calm, honest conversation with your sister about your concerns and feelings to foster mutual understanding and find a resolution. Am I the antagonist for telling the lady at the pet shelter that she is actively hurting adoption chances? I'm a 24-year-old female who has been trying to adopt a cat from a local shelter for a while now. I have always had cats around me while growing up, so when I moved away from my family home, I knew I couldn't take them with me. The cats had formed strong bonds with my parents, the house, the dog, and they were technically my dad's babies, so separating them would have been cruel. I moved a few hours away from home to be closer to the college I'm attending, and I have been feeling quite homesick. Like many others, I deal with anxiety and depression, and these feelings have been weighing heavily on me lately, despite having my partner living with me. Being around animals always makes me feel better, and both my partner and I are big cat lovers. That's why we decided to look into adopting a senior cat from a shelter specializing in them. Unfortunately, I never receive any positive responses. So, I decided to go to the shelter in person and ask the lady in charge of accepting or rejecting applications if there was anything I could do to improve my chances of being accepted, considering the shelter is already at maximum capacity. She pointed to the section on the form that asked, "What would make you give up a pet?" and told me that my answer was the problem. My answer was simply that I would only give up a pet if I were to die, and no one in my friends or family could take it in. I clarified that I would never voluntarily give up a pet. I was confused by the issue she had with my answer, and she explained that I wasn't responsible enough if I didn't have an immediate backup plan for someone to take care of the pet in the event of my death. I was baffled because I do have my partner and parents who would take care of my pet if I passed away. In this scenario, I had presented an extreme situation to emphasize that I would never willingly give away a pet. I explained this to the lady, pointing out that she was being overly nitpicky. However, she insisted that if I were a good candidate, I would have a better plan than relying on my family or friends to care for the cat in the event of my death. Her attitude and the way she spoke to me made me feel really upset. In the heat of the moment, I told her, "You know, if you weren't so unreasonable, maybe the shelter wouldn't be so crowded right now. Yes, animals need good homes, and it's important to monitor the adoption process, but you are actually decreasing their chances of finding homes. They are already in the later stages of life. Don't they deserve to spend as many days as possible in a warm home instead of a cage?" This is probably where I may have acted like an asshole because the lady started crying and called over her coworker to escort us out. She told her coworker that we had said she was ensuring the cats would die alone. My intention was not to make her feel that way. I was merely trying to highlight a flaw in their adoption process. After this incident, the shelter lady informed us that we were not welcome to adopt from them because we were AHs, presumably meaning assholes. I feel uncertain and confused about the whole situation. My fiancé believes that something fishy is going on at the shelter and advises me not to let their dramatics affect me. So am I the asshole? You had a legitimate question and concern about the adoption process, and you approached the shelter respectfully to inquire about it. The lady in charge of accepting the applications gave you a vague and unreasonable response, essentially insinuating that you're not responsible enough for not having an immediate backup plan for your pet in case of your death. Your response was a bit harsh, but it seems like it came from frustration and was not intentionally meant to make her cry. It is important for shelters to ensure that animals go to responsible and loving homes, but her refusal to consider your family and friends as potential caretakers in an extreme situation like death seems excessive. It's understandable that you felt upset and confused by the whole interaction. It's possible that the shelter's rejection was a result of miscommunication or personal bias, but there is no evidence to suggest that you or your fiancé are the AHs in this situation. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.